Good Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off today. Right now on Morning News Now, Kyiv under fire. Russian airstrikes target Ukraine's capital city. But we're learning this morning about the latest attacks on Kyiv since Russian forces retreated weeks ago. Plus, the new efforts underway today to rescue Ukrainians taking shelter in a steel plant in the besieged city of Mariupol. Some relief. President Biden says he's considering forgiving some student loan debt. The plans the president is looking at and what it could mean for the millions of people trying to repay their college loans. 30 years later, today marks 3 decades since officers were acquitted in the police beating of Rodney King in L.A. That infamous moment sparked outrage and deadly protests throughout the city. We'll look back at that pivotal time in race relations, plus what we can learn today as police brutality remains a top issue in the U.S. Plus, no plans? No problem. If you don't have anything to do this weekend, well, we have a list for you. We're going to break down all the movies and shows people will be talking about on Monday, plus the growing trend of TV shows about shows. Good to have you with us on this Friday. We begin this morning with the war in Ukraine and the capital, Kyiv, which is once again coming under attack. 2 cruise missiles rocked the city last night. Local officials say 1 person was killed, 10 others were injured. The attack happened during a visit to the capital by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and it prompted fierce condemnation in Ukraine. President Zelensky accused Russia of trying to humiliate the UN. Meanwhile, the Biden administration is calling for more aid for Ukraine. The president is asking Congress to approve a $33 billion aid package. He called it a small price to pay for Ukraine's freedom.
We're not attacking Russia. We're helping Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression. And just as Putin chose to launch this brutal invasion, he could make the choice to end this brutal invasion. Russia is the aggressor. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Russia is the aggressor, and the world must and will hold Russia accountable. And as long as the assaults and atrocities continue, we're going to continue to supply military assistance.
NBC News global correspondent Raf Sanchez is in Lviv, Ukraine, and NBC News correspondent Josh Letterman is covering the latest developments out of the White House. Raf, let's start with you in that attack on Kyiv yesterday. Those 2 cruise missiles hit just as the UN Secretary General was visiting the Ukrainian capital. What more do we know about this attack? And also, what came out of that meeting between the UN chief and Zelensky?
Joe, President Zelensky was very clear. He sees this as an attempt by the Kremlin to send a message to humiliate the Secretary General of the United Nations and basically say to the international community, stay out of this. Don't interfere in our invasion in Ukraine. Now, as you said, 2 residential buildings were hit, 1 person killed, 10 injured, and this strike coming just an hour or so after the Secretary General emerged from that meeting with President Zelensky at the presidential compounds. Earlier in the day, the Secretary General had been walking around the suburb of Borodyanka. That is one of those Kyiv suburbs that, along with Bucha, whose name will be etched in infamy as a place where Russian forces appear to have carried out mass war crimes. I want you to take a listen to just a little bit of what the Secretary General had to say about that.
Ukraine is an epicenter of unbearable heartache and pain. I witnessed that very vividly today around Kyiv. The senseless loss of life, the massive destruction, the unacceptable violations of human rights and the laws of war.
Let me be very clear. The Security Council failed to do everything in its power to prevent and end this war. And this is a source of great disappointment, frustration, and anger.
Now, Joe, these strikes are a reminder that while the fighting on the ground is focused on the east, Vladimir Putin's missiles are able to hit every corner of this country, from Kyiv here in Lviv down to Odessa in the south, and they are striking everywhere they can. Joe?
So, Josh, let's talk about the American response yesterday. President Biden asked Congress to greenlight this huge $33 billion aid package for Ukraine. What's included in that, and does it look like lawmakers will approve it?
Yeah, that $33 billion package, Joe, is more than double President Biden's initial request to Congress for assistance for the Ukrainians, which was about 13.5 billion. So this means that the U.S. would now be spending about as much per year trying to help the Ukrainians as we did in our own war in Afghanistan. And if you break down the numbers here, it's about $20 billion, $20.5 billion, the largest amount of this package going to military and security assistance for the Ukrainians. But there's also about $8 billion in there for economic assistance to try to help prop up Ukraine's government as it is struggling to keep basic functions going with all of these hits on its infrastructure and other challenge. There's also some humanitarian assistance included in this package, and this would really allow the administration to not have to go back to Congress every single month for more money. They are looking at a 5-month package, which essentially creates a bank account from which the Biden administration can draw down month after month as they need to provide bit by bit more security assistance to the Ukrainians. And you asked about the prospects in Congress. I think this aid package in and of itself for Ukraine will be pretty applauded and have a lot of bipartisan support. But the real question, Joe, is whether lawmakers are going to try to either tie this in with COVID funding or if Republicans will seek a fight over the unrelated Title 42 issue. As you know well, sometimes things that seem like they should be straightforward aren't always so when they come to the U.S. Congress.
Some of these issues that we don't think have anything to do with what we're talking about suddenly come into play. Raf, I want to ask you about one of the topics of discussion between the UN chief and President Zelensky, and that's the situation in Mariupol and that blockaded steel plant. So this morning, the presidential office said an operation to evacuate civilians from that facility is being planned for today. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Joe, a lot of confusion now about what is happening in Mariupol. Earlier this morning, President Zelensky's office putting out that statement saying they were hoping to carry out an evacuation today. There was nothing official from the UN, but we know that a UN team did move down to Zaporizhzhia yesterday to be in place in case a window of opportunity did come up for that evacuation to go ahead. In the hours since, though, we've seen no movement. We've actually been speaking to a Marine who is inside that steel plant. He says that Russian shelling has been continuing all day. He says that there has been talk of evacuations every day for the last 4 days, but nothing has materialized. So a lot of rumors circulating in the tunnels underneath that steel plant, some glimmers of hope that people are daring to cling to. But right now, there is no sign of an evacuation going ahead. It is 2 p.m. here in Ukraine. And of course, the Russians have a say in this. There is nothing official from the Russian government right now that suggests that an evacuation is planned, that they are planning to pull their forces back to allow that to go ahead. Zelensky's office referring only to an evacuation of civilians, so women and children. Not clear what would happen to those hundreds of wounded Ukrainian soldiers who are down in the plant also. The commander of one of the Ukrainian Marine units says he has 600 men wounded. They will die down there if they don't get the medical attention they need. Jeff?
The world watching what's happening there. Raf and Josh, thank you both. For more, let's bring in Lester Munson. He's a senior fellow at the National Security Institute and a principal in the international practice at BGR Group. Good to have you with us. Let's start with that new attack on Kyiv. I mean, do you think this was just a message to the rest of the world, or is it a sign of the war becoming perhaps a larger conflict again across Ukraine?
Well, Joe, I think it's a little bit of both, right? Vladimir Putin wants to send the message that everything is at stake with his invasion of Ukraine. He does not view it as an invasion. He views this as a special military operation, almost within the confines of Russia. The rest of the world disagrees. He is chomping at the bit, and he's in a bit of a corner because so far his military plans have not gone well. He's had to change his strategy. He's had terrible losses in the field. So he's striking out wherever he can. This missile strike near the UN Secretary General is a real insult to the world's view of what is happening.
I want to ask you about that $33 billion military aid package President Biden is now asking Congress for. Let's put that in perspective. That is more than the military budgets of most countries. So that being said, is that even enough, or is it possible the U.S. is going to need to consider more money again down the road as this continues to go on?
Yeah, this is a significant package. Frankly, it's more than I thought they were going to ask for. But I think everyone needs to realize this may be the first of several large aid packages related to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. President Zelensky told the world that he needs about $5 billion a month just to keep his government operating. That means paying his fighters, his doctors, his nurses, the people who are actually prosecuting this defense of Ukraine. So in addition to the military assistance, that economic assistance is hugely significant. This is a real sustainment for the entire nation of Ukraine. Hopefully the rest of the world, other donor nations, Europe, Japan, other countries can step up and do some more as well.
I also want to ask you about something that former U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul, tweeted. He said, Putin has lost his war in Ukraine. He may still win some battles, but he has already lost the war. Do you agree?
I think there's a lot of truth in that, but we still have a long way to go. Vladimir Putin has shown he's probably willing to do anything. He's made some rather extreme threats about the invasion of Ukraine. He's implied the use of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. So while I would like to agree with that statement, I think it's really too soon to tell.
Lester Munson, thanks so much for your analysis this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Turning now to the coronavirus and the new push to greenlight a vaccine for the last group of Americans waiting for their jab, our youngest children. Moderna has filed for emergency use authorization from the FDA for its vaccine for kids as young as 6 months old. Now, the company says the immune response for this youngest group was similar to the response for adults between the ages of 18 and 25. Let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel for more on this. Dr. Patel, good to have you with us. So Moderna has now filed this request. Now the FDA has to decide whether to authorize it. We've been through this process before, but it's been going slower for this youngest group of kids. So how long could the process take, and what will be the impact then if it's approved?
Yeah, Joe, much slower than any of us wanted. So here's just break down the date. Yesterday, Moderna initiated that submission. They still need to submit complete data in order to have kind of a full application for the FDA to review. They hope to do that by May 9th. FDA then has hundreds to possibly even thousands of pages of data and information to review. Turning that around, they've done it quickly. It can take 2 to 3 weeks if they're really committed to it. They call the advisory committee together, and then the CDC has to then call their advisory committee together. You could optimistically see jabs and arms by Memorial Day. That would be great. But people are saying more realistically, it's June, just because of all that information that they have to process.
Just in time, though, for the summer for so many families, I should say. All right, I want to shift gears and turn to the issue of mask mandates and to some news out of San Francisco. The city's transit system there reinstating mask mandates because COVID cases are rising throughout the area there. Is this a good example of how local officials can be proactive in slowing the spread of COVID before a situation does get out of hand?
Yeah, Joe, I think that's a good example. I'm in the D.C. area where Uber and Lyft actually put mask mandates back in for drivers, along with others, some transit areas in limited parts of the state. So I do feel like this is a very typical trend that you're going to see. I think the question, though, is so which amount of cases necessitates this and which amount of cases brings it off? And I think that's where people are confused. And cities don't necessarily have the most up-to-date data. Not all cities are collecting data as often. So a lot of this depends on just how frequent and how refreshed your data is in your city, county, or state.
We were told to keep those masks in drawers and keep them handy, so I guess that's playing out here. Dr. Patel, I also want to ask, we've seen cases creep up across the U.S. in recent weeks, but still hospitalizations and deaths have stayed at these lower levels. Do you think overall the country is in a pretty good place right now as we head into the summer months?
Yeah, it's in a better place. And I don't want people to mistake the word better for we're out of any danger, but it's absolutely worth celebrating that we are in a better place, in part due to vaccine-induced immunity and maybe some infection-induced immunity from the recent Omicron surge, since about 60% of adult Americans, 75% of children have demonstrated some sort of infection. But that only lasts so long, Joe, and we're always going to have to keep an eye for whatever might come next. So good shape, better shape now. Want to stay that way so that we can deal with the summer and the fall and the winter.
That would be nice. All right, Dr. Kavita Patel, as always, thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
So as COVID cases continue to weigh on the U.S. economy, President Biden is under growing pressure from progressives and young voters to cancel some, if not all, of the nation's federal student loan debt. We're talking about nearly $1.7 trillion of debt. Well, he has not made a decision on that just yet. Yesterday, the president did offer some insight into his plans.
I am considering dealing with some debt reduction. I am not considering $50,000 debt reduction, but I'm in the process of taking a hard look at whether or not there will be additional debt forgiveness.
Joining us now for more on this is Politico education reporter MichaelStratford. Michael, good to have you with us. So top Republicans in Congress have right off the bat signaled they're going to block any blanket debt forgiveness. So the White House is going to have to go at it alone here. What are the options the president has to cancel debt that's impacting more than 43 million Americans?
Good morning, Joe. That's exactly right. There is no legislative path for progressives getting this done in Congress. And that's why it's such a big deal that President Biden publicly confirmed yesterday that executive action to cancel some amount of student loan debt is something he's seriously considering. It's on the table and something he wants to make a decision on in the next few weeks. Progressives have been talking for some time now about having the Biden administration through the education department, because the federal government owns most of the outstanding student loan debt, to have them write off some amount of debt. And that's something that progressives argue the education department already has the power to do under existing law without needing to go to Congress. So the president has said he's looking at some amount of money. We know it's not going to be the $50,000 figure that progressives have been throwing around. In the past, the president has endorsed the idea of something closer to $10,000 per borrower. So that's probably what's more closely on the table right now.
So President Biden campaigned on wiping out up to $10,000 in federal loans per borrower. Now, the average federal student loan debt balance is actually more than $37,000, so not quite $10,000. But talk about the economic impact that eliminating at least some of that debt could have on the nation's student debt crisis.
Yeah, so we know that even if the president goes with the $10,000 figure, a lot of borrowers have less than $10,000, so that will wipe out completely the student debt burden for millions of federal student loan borrowers. And a lot of those borrowers are borrowers who maybe completed some college and then for whatever reason had to leave. So they sort of have kind of the worst of both worlds in having some amount of debt, but not having any degree to go get a job that earns more money. So it will, of course, be a significant event for those borrowers who get debt relief. And some progressives also were talking about this as some type of economic stimulus. We heard a lot about this during some of the negotiations over the COVID legislation. You'll recall Democrats tried to do this in 2020 through COVID legislation, but were unable to do so. They were blocked by Republicans in that effort. So it would be a significant economic tool to bring down the amount of outstanding student debt. And it's a lever that the White House is looking at using seriously.
All right, Michael, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Time to get a check on your morning news now. Weather Michelle Grossman is with us again in person. Good to see you, Michelle. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Good to see you. We have a few hiccups for this weekend. First, we're going to start out with a small hiccup. We're looking at some cold weather. 22 million impacted this morning by a freeze warning. You can see that in the hot pink here from Cleveland to Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, including Trenton and Vineland, New Jersey. Now, as we go throughout time here, we're going to start to warm up. So by Monday and Tuesday, feeling a little bit more like spring. Still below normal today, not quite as chilly as we have been. We're looking at Buffalo today, 55. That's 7 degrees below what is typical for this time of year. Boston, 53. That's 8 degrees below what is typical for this time of year. Tomorrow, sort of the same story. You have all the kids' games to go to. You need to layer up in some spots. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s. But notice that yellow there. That's the warmer air, and that's going to be moving towards the east as we head towards Monday and Tuesday. So temperatures in the 80s in Memphis. Now, as we go throughout Monday and Tuesday, there are the 80s in Richmond, 82 degrees by Tuesday, 75 in Philadelphia. So finally, we get that spring fling. Now, we are also watching the chance for some severe weather this afternoon and tonight. We're going to watch this really closely. 9 million people at risk. Where you see that orange, that's your enhanced risk. And what that really tells you is severe weather is likely. Concordia, Wichita, you're under the gun for that. We're looking at hail up to 3 inches, and that means softball-size hail, maybe even larger than that. That can cause a lot of damage. A few strong tornadoes, EF2 or greater, and also some winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. The yellow, that is your slight risk. That's really telling you that severe weather is possible there. Saturday, still looking at the threat for severe weather. 17 million people at risk, winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Hail, but smaller than today, and a few tornadoes are possible. So the threat isn't quite as great on Saturday, but it's still there from Chicago down to Evansville, also Paducah. Now, this is a setup here. We have an area of low pressure. We've been talking about it the past couple of days. It's sort of parked over the plains, so moving very, very slowly, and it's bringing this warm air into place, but it's also bringing a lot of moisture and also bringing the chance for severe weather. So heavy rain to the north in the plains. You can see the yellows and reds in North Dakota, South Dakota. We could see some flooding there, and a severe risk from Nebraska, Kansas, and also Oklahoma. Watch how slowly it moves. So by Saturday, we're looking at that rain continuing in Minnesota, and then that threat, the severe threat, moves off to the east. So a lot of people dealing with that tonight and tomorrow, which is not super ideal on the weekend.
Not great, but I like the idea of a spring fling. I'm looking forward.
Yes, we need that.
We need a spring fling.
Yeah,
all right,
I agree.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
We'll see you next hour.
Okay.
Coming up, renewed outrage this morning over the deadly shooting on the set of the movie Rust. Why the family of Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer who was shot and killed, is now slamming investigators. We got that story next. We're back with the controversy surrounding footage released this week in connection to the fatal Rust movie shooting. The family of Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer who was killed, is now speaking out. They're slamming the sheriff's decision to release video of the moments after she was shot to the public. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has more.
Outrage over the decision to publicly release video showing Helena Hutchins' final moments in the Rust set shooting. The family of the cinematographer condemning the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office for releasing video of the chaotic scene when she was shot and killed and demanding the footage be taken down, saying the move failed to respect the family's dignity and privacy by releasing the materials to the public before releasing the materials to Mr. Hutchins. An attorney for Matt Hutchins writing in a letter, the first time Mr. Hutchins saw the disturbing and unsettling video footage of his dying wife lying on the church floor was on Radar Online, an internet website. Adding about the couple's 9-year-old son, we fear, for example, that this shocking footage of Andros's mother dying may be material used by bullies to emotionally abuse him in the future. The sheriff is declining NBC's request for an interview, saying earlier this week on Today, his office released the evidence in response to public records requests.
We were under an obligation to release it right now?
Not right now. It took us some time to put it together, and we tried to release it as soon as we had everything together.
Okay. The trove of videos and documents made public 6 months into the Rust investigation. It includes raw clips of actor Alec Baldwin moments after the fatal shooting. New video released by the sheriff's office shows Baldwin hours later learning Hutchins had died.
I do have some very unfortunate news to tell you. She didn't make it.
The actor declining NBC's request for comment. Baldwin's attorney earlier this week says he believes the evidence shows he acted responsibly and was very careful with guns on set. Matt Hutchins not commenting beyond his statement, but saying this to Hoda in February about the public nature of the shooting.
Why did the fact that details were out there, why was that so bothersome?
Well, I mean, think about how you would feel. All of this happened so publicly. Justice won't bring Helena back, but maybe the memory of her can help keep people safe.
A grieving husband and worried father struggling to protect his family from very public pain.
That was Maggie Vespa reporting. Today marks 30 years since 4 white Los Angeles police officers were acquitted in the violent beating of Rodney King. For the next 6 days, violence, looting, and arson would spread across the city. More than 60 people died during the LA riots, and over 2,000 were injured. Now, like the Watts riot a generation earlier and the George Floyd protests more recently, the LA riots exposed the deep-seated anger felt by many Americans over police brutality, especially in the black community. Joining us now from Los Angeles at the LA riots mural is Naji Ali. He's a civil rights activist and Operation Hope Community Relations Ambassador. Good to have you with us. I mean, this is such a pivotal chapter in race relations in the U.S., not just for Los Angeles, but for the millions who are watching it play out on TV across the world. What's on your mind as you think back on this day 30 years ago when those officers were acquitted?
Well, certainly today is a day that for those who lived through it 30 years ago, we will never forget it. It was one of the most darkest days in the history of LA, where over 60 people lost their lives here in our city, over $1 billion in property damage. And certainly it's images that I will never forget seeing the city burn around me. So this is a day to reflect on the past, but actually understanding, especially in the age of the murder of George Floyd by a police officer in Minnesota, how far we've come as far as race relations and police abuse against African Americans primarily.
I mean, looking back, what effect do you think the riot had? What was the impact in America, especially when it comes to the issue of policing?
It certainly exposed to the greater public who were not African American the daily fact in Los Angeles, and I would also say across urban America, that African Americans are the victims of racial profiling, police abuse, and in some cases, police murder unjustly of Black men, women, and children nationally. So it showed what African Americans had been saying for years, that African Americans have been victimized by unjust policing.
You touched on this. It was the summer of 2020. We saw similar scenes and really experienced a lot of similar emotions across the country brought on by this same issue, police brutality. What were your thoughts seeing the unrest after George Floyd's death?
Well, I was someone who actually flew to Minnesota immediately after George Floyd's killing by Officer Derek Chauvin. And joining Reverend Sharpton, the Floyd family, Attorney Ben Crump, we were united in demanding justice for George Floyd. So with the videotape, as we had a videotape in seeing Rodney King be beat by 4 LAPD officers, we were a lot more certain that we would actually get justice this time, the justice that we didn't get 30 years ago after the beating of Rodney King by 4 white LAPD officers.
Progress is slow, but what do you hope happens next?
That hopefully we will reach a point in this country where all people are treated fairly and equitable by law enforcement. Because at the end of the day, and I've said this, I'll say it again, Reverend Sharpton, Attorney Ben Crump, myself, and other civil rights leaders and activists, we are not anti-police. We're simply anti-bad police, anti-police racial profiling of people from our community. So we just want to be treated fairly and justly like all American citizens.
Najee Ali, thank you for taking some time to join us this morning. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Time for international headlines, starting with China's capital city of Beijing, where they're preparing to go back into lockdown as COVID cases rise. NBC's Claudio Lavanga joins us with that and more. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Well, one of the signs that a lot of people in Beijing are preparing to either lockdown or a quarantine is the fact that home delivery companies have just reported a huge rise in demand, especially as millions of residents in the Chinese capital are taking part in this mass COVID-19 testing. Some e-commerce platforms in China, like JD.com, have said that they've seen a rise in the volume of goods by 65% and said that 80% of all the parcels they deliver contain food. Now let's move to Chile, where more than 30 trucks were set on fire in a region where the Mapuche, the country's biggest indigenous group, are demanding the return of ancestral land. Tension between the Mapuche and the state has increased in the area where there have been arson attacks on farms, machinery, and, as in this case, trucks. And let's end this short tour of the world here in Italy, where thousands of jellyfish have returned to the port of Trieste in the north of the country. Scientists believe that their presence could be the result in the rise in sea temperature. Now, I know that you're planning your holidays in Italy, Joe, so I will avoid that area for swimming, perhaps.
You don't just get your world headlines from Claudio, you also get some useful travel tips. So, Claudio, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Exactly.
All right. Coming up, the FDA is taking a major step to try to save thousands of lives. The positive impact a proposed ban on menthol cigarettes could have on smokers who are young and black, and why the FDA is focusing on this specific type of tobacco. Welcome back. In this week's Climate Control, population growth is exhausting nature's ability to create sand, a natural resource you probably haven't thought much about before. Plus, as rising sea levels threaten coastal communities, South Korea is building the world's first floating city. Here's NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns.
We should have a breaking news banner for this one, but the thing is, you kind of expect it this time of year, and it happened last year at this time, too. We have now broken the record for the highest concentrations of CO2, carbon dioxide, in our atmosphere, going back 2 million years. So we've been directly measuring the CO2 in our atmosphere since 1960s on the top of a volcano on the Hawaiian Islands. That's how we know what the level is right now. And our ice core scientists tell us that they go back 2 million years to tell us that the last time that we've had it this high was 2 to 3 million years ago, and that predates the human existence. So, unfortunately, we set the record now. We're going to do it again this time next year as we continue to put CO2 in the atmosphere. And the consequence of all of this, the UN tells us, is an increasing number of disasters. And we're talking fires, floods, and heat waves, and yes, even pandemics. So they looked at 1970 to the year 2000. Back then, we had about 100 disasters each and every year. But now that we've gone into the last 20 years, from 2000 to 2020, we've up and increased that all the way to 400 worldwide disasters a year. And the UN now tells us that by the year 2030, the number of worldwide disasters will jump to 560 a year. And the UN Secretary General said the world needs to do more to incorporate disaster risk into how we live, build, and invest, which is setting humanity on a spiral towards self-destruction. Well, here's another story, and this one made me shake my head. Have you ever heard of a sand crisis or a looming sand shortage? Well, now we're being told that's a distinct possibility. And here's the problem. Right now, we are using up more sand than nature is providing and making for us each year. So, yes, the sand that goes through your toes in the summertime and we build those sand castles with, that is a natural resource that we're using too much of. And they're telling us that this natural resource has tripled in use in just the last 20 years. And in case you're wondering what sand goes into, it goes into glass, it goes into the making of concrete, and a lot of construction materials. And there's currently no ban on the extraction of it. And they're saying there needs to be regulations of this natural resource that we're now using too much of. And then finally, how about a solution to all of our climate problems? A lot of cities are built right on the coastline. And this is a prototype city that is being brought to us by OceanX and also by South Korea. Busan is the city that's going to try this first. A floating city. Now, this rendering looks something out of like a virtual video game or like Sim City or something like that. But each of these platforms is designed to have a separate purpose, and we put 3 of them together to make this city. It can hold up to 10,000 people, 12,000 people over 15 acres. They're connected by bridges and also connected to land by a bridge. No cars. It'll be all bicycles, and it'll be all people walking. And these are called biorocks that are going to connect these, and that's how they're going to survive, and they also can regenerate themselves. So this will be exciting. Can you guys imagine happy hour on this little floating city just kind of bobbing in the ocean? Maybe a solution in our near future.
Very cool. I like that idea of a happy hour. Thank you, Bill. Sticking with the environment, we have a report from our series, The Climate Challenge. That drought emergency out west is having a major impact on the water supply. NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt has that story.
In our series Climate Challenge, we look at the drought emergency here in the West. Lake Mead, the country's largest man-made reservoir, is only about a third full, a historic low. It's so bad in Colorado that the Agriculture Department declared the whole state a primary natural disaster area, unlocking aid for farmers and ranchers. One of the problems, not enough snow. That's also a huge issue here in California, where the ripple effect is severe. In California's San Joaquin Valley, these are days of hard choices for farmers.
We had to cut out actually a couple of crops, and we've had to cut back on our melon program.
Joe Del Bosque has operated his farm since 1985.
This, I think, is the worst year we've ever had.
He's right. Water officials believe the past 3 years could end up as the driest in California's history. I look out here and I see a beautiful day by the lake. What do you see when you look at this?
I see a dangerously low reservoir. I mean, we are at ground zero for the California drought.
The state's reservoirs are alarmingly low. This is Lake Castaic, north of Los Angeles, now sitting at 53% capacity. To give you some perspective, in good times, the water should be nearly to the top of that dam. California's Natural Resources Secretary Wade Crowfoot says the snowpack in Northern California's Sierra Nevada mountains says it all. What do the last measurements tell you?
Well, the last measurements are pretty grim. We have a lot less snowpack than we've had in the past due to hotter winter temperatures. And then due to hotter spring and summer temperatures, more of that snow is either absorbing into very dry soils or evaporating into warm air.
Just this week, a water supplier to 6 million Southern Californians declared an emergency, severely limiting non-essential water use. The drought impacting parched farmlands and American dinner tables.
The tomatoes, the sweet corn, melons, things that we would normally have at the stores aren't going to be grown in the quantity this year than we're used to.
California provides 2/3 of the U.S. supply of fruits and nuts.
We're blessed with this Mediterranean-type climate here in California that nobody else has. And we can grow crops here that can't grow anywhere else.
Farmer Bill Diedrich grows tomatoes, but not now.
No tomatoes this year because this water has got to be put to use on other crops that, for us, is less risky.
Many farms partly rely on groundwater, but if it's not stored in the good years, it can leave fields like this high and dry in the bad years. Now, state officials are under pressure to do something. We've heard from farmers who complain that there's not enough being done to capture the water that falls during the good years.
Well, they have a good point. We have to do more to ensure that when we do receive these large winter storms, that we're capturing water, not only in our surface reservoirs, but pumping that water back underground. So, for example, we are investing billions of dollars in recharging groundwater basins, and those are infrastructure projects.
Time may have run out.
We're not looking down the road 5 years or 10 or 20 years. And what we're seeing is a diminished capacity to feed our own people. And that's the tragedy here. We don't have the water to grow the food that we could be growing here that makes it to the store that we all shop at.
Hard times, hard choices. But for Joe Del Bosque, an unshaken belief in this land.
I never fail to just love what I see when we're planting. See some plants there in this great soil. These soils in this area produces some of the best melons in the country. And I'm very proud to be a part of that.
Our thanks to Lester Holt for that report. This morning, the FDA is moving to ban the sale of menthol cigarettes. Menthol accounts for more than 1/3 of all cigarettes sold in the U.S. and is especially popular among black smokers and younger people. NBC News correspondent Rahima Ellis has the latest on this push.
The FDA has talked about the dangers of menthol cigarettes for years. The agency is proposing to ban them.
The proposed product standards would, among other things, improve the health and reduce the mortality risk of current smokers of menthol cigarettes or flavored cigars.
Menthol makes up 1/3 of all cigarettes sold in the United States, and a ban would overwhelmingly impact black and young people.
I was planning on quitting anyway.
Research shows 85% of black smokers use menthol cigarettes, compared with 29% of white smokers. The CDC says smoking is a leading cause of lung cancer. Black men have the highest rates of that disease. If this ban goes through, how significant would it be in terms of affecting the health of all Americans?
This is a landmark regulation that FDA is proposing. Our projections are that 1.33 million smokers would quit, among whom 381,000 would be African-American smokers.
Altria Group, the parent company of some leading tobacco manufacturers, saying in part, taking these products out of the legal marketplace will push them into unregulated criminal markets that don't follow any regulations and ignore minimum age laws. The FDA proposal could go into effect in a year, but it's expected the tobacco industry will fight it, which could lead to a long court battle. Rahima Ellis, NBC News.
If you use Venmo or PayPal, listen up. You may soon have to pay more to give or get money from your friends. So which fees are going up and by how much? That's next. You're watching Morning News Now. Your Money Minute now. Wall Street is closing out another roller coaster week after some mixed earnings reports from the tech sector. CNBC's Bertha Coombs is with us on this Friday. Hey, Bertha, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster month, really. We're looking at this morning reversing some of the gains that we saw yesterday following disappointing earnings from Amazon and Apple. Amazon reporting its first quarterly loss since 2015 as it deals with rising labor and shipping costs and what it says is a pullback in consumer spending. Apple's results beat forecasts on strong iPhone sales, with the company warning that revenue could take a big hit this quarter due to those lockdowns in China. With one trading day to go, the Dow is off more than 2% for April, and April has definitely been the cruelest month for the NASDAQ, down 9.5%, on pace for its worst month since March of 2020. Elon Musk, meantime, sold roughly $4 billion worth of Tesla stock in the 2 days after striking that deal to buy Twitter for $44 billion. That is according to government filings. Musk is Tesla's largest shareholder and owned about 17% of the company before this week's sales. He's on the hook to come up with at least $21 billion in cash to finance the deal. There are rules in place requiring Musk to put up more collateral if Tesla's share price falls. Musk tweeting that he doesn't plan to sell any more shares. Meantime, Airbnb is telling employees they can now work remotely forever. While a small number will be required to work from the office, the majority don't have to come in if they don't want to. They also won't have to take a pay cut if they move away from the cities near the company's offices. In fact, employees can live and work in more than 170 countries for up to 90 days a year in each location, as long as they keep a permanent address on file. I will tell you, Joe, I've been going into the office more during later hours, and it's just distracting in the newsroom. There's a lot of noise when everybody's in there.
We're so used to working by ourselves. It's like, oh, all these people.
I know. I know. I have to put on headphones.
Well, it's always good to see you, whether it's remote or in person, Bertha. So thanks so much for joining us this morning. All right. We got more consumer news. Venmo and PayPal are announcing new fees on some of their services, and Tropicana is hoping you're going to pour orange juice instead of milk over your morning cereal. NBC News senior consumer investigative correspondent Vicki Wynn is here with this week's Good to Know.
Good morning. Hold on before making your next hamburger. A New Jersey manufacturer is voluntarily recalling more than 120,000 pounds of ground beef products over E. coli concerns. The impacted products are from Lakeside Refrigerated Services, and they contain the number 46841 on the label. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said no illnesses have been reported, and customers who purchase the product should throw it out or return it to the store for a refund. PayPal and Venmo are increasing their transfer fees. This means sending money instantly to your bank or debit card will now cost 1.75% of the transfer amount, with a maximum fee of $25. That's an increase of around 14%. In a statement, PayPal, which owns Venmo, said the price change was added to be more in line with the value they provide. The new fees are expected in the coming weeks. Could a robot be making your burger during your next trip to a fast food restaurant? Jack in the Box is piloting robots that will make hamburgers and tacos. The robots are made by the company Miso. They'll be stationed at a San Diego Jack in the Box location with tentative plans to open more in the months ahead. The robots are already in use at some White Castle locations. Who needs milk for cereal anymore? Tropicana has just unveiled the first ever cereal that it says is made to be paired with orange juice instead of milk. The company says the Tropicana Crunch is a honey almond flavor with granola, which is able to withstand the acidity of OJ without becoming soggy. The cereal is only available at Tropicana's website starting May 4th and only while supplies last. Would you guys give it a try? Maybe. For News Now, I'm Vicki Wynn, and that's Good to know.
All right. Thank you, Vicki. By the way, Tropicana says the cereal box also comes with a straw so you can slurp up any extra OJ. I think I'm on the fence about that one. Yeah, lots of no's right now. Lots of no's. We'll see. I won't judge it till I try it. All right. Coming up, a hugely popular streaming series is coming to an end. The final episode of Ozark is here. What we're learning about the finale, don't worry, no spoilers, and the other shows and movies you don't want to miss this weekend. That's next. We're happy to hear him describe the most gruesome crimes on Dateline, and his famous voice has even been known to make the phone book sound interesting.
1400 Falls Court, 6046 East Crossroads Boulevard.
Now NBC's Keith Morrison's distinctive tones are being put to the ultimate test. On May 3rd, Morrison will be releasing a sleep story with the Calm meditation app. The story, called The Curious Case of the Overnight Oats, is his spin on the classic Goldilocks tale. Morrison told People magazine that Dateline viewers have often commented that his voice put them to sleep, adding, quote, "If I'm going to put people to sleep, I might as well put it on the Calm app." And if you can get sleep this weekend, or can't, you can blame it all on the great shows and movies you're going to be busy binging. It's Friday, which means it's time for our Can't Miss list. Joining us now with some of his top picks is a guy who never makes us fall asleep, entertainment journalist and pop culture expert Brian Balthazar. Brian, good to have you with us. Let's start.
Thank you for having me. I love everything about that last story. It's so good. I'm sorry.
I know. Maybe we could just do that all weekend, and just listen to Keith Morrison putting us to sleep. But if you don't want to do that, if you're wide awake, what can you tell us about what's in the theaters, including Bruce Willis has a new movie out?
Right, that's right. It's called Fortress Sniper's Eye. This is actually the second in a trilogy starring Bruce Willis, Jesse Metcalfe, and Chad Michael Murray. It follows Bruce Willis's character, and of course, this is the first one we've seen since he's been diagnosed with aphasia, limiting his ability to speak. There you're seeing Liam Neeson. We'll get to that in a second. But Bruce Willis, in Fortress Sniper's Eye, spends most of his role in a hospital bed, actually, because he's injured. And so he's kind of got a limited role, and it follows something that happens to his wife, and it's something worth seeing on demand. So, or on demand or in theaters, actually. So this is, I think people are going to be watching this with kind of a renewed lens, you know, about what's been announced about his retirement. Then we have Memory with Liam Neeson, kind of doing what Liam Neeson does best. He's an assassin in this case, but he's not so crazy about one of his assignments, so he's going to have to kill all the people who asked him to do it. There's more to it than that, but it's Liam Neeson doing what he does so well, scare us.
That's what Liam Neeson does when he's not happy about something. So, all right, if you want to stay home this weekend, we got some new shows streaming. What are some of the things people are talking about?
Right. Okay. The first one is Smother. This is on Peacock, and it follows a family in Ireland. A woman's husband is found dead at the bottom of a cliff, and she undergoes her own kind of investigation to see what happened, what are the relationships that led up to this moment, and she uncovers, I should say, a lot of family secrets. It turns out that this man that she was married to had a lot of troublesome relationships, and apparently, stick around, binge this, because the ending is not to be believed. That's really worth watching. Then we have Under the Banner of Heaven. This is FX on Hulu, starring Andrew Garfield as a detective. This is actually based on a true story of a double murder in 1984 that was perpetrated by an offshoot of a Mormon group. And so this is based honestly on a true story. This is actually also what led Andrew Garfield to say in the press for this that he's going to take a break from acting. This was an intense shoot and an intense year for him, having 3 films and award season. It apparently took a lot out of him, but this story is pretty intense, and he's going to take a break on that.
It can be hard being nominated for all those awards. He's been working hard as of late. All right, let's stick with TV shows. 2 series are wrapping up their final episodes. What can you tell us about those shows?
Well, first, Ozark. For Ozark fans, this is big. The final episodes have finally dropped on Netflix. And there you see, I mean, Ruth, she's become a meme. And of course, we remember her from Inventing Anna, too. But she has become a meme this summer for a bite that she had on this series. And so we're going to follow and see if she becomes kind of the big drug lord. There's Laura Linney, who's been trying to rise in the political world. There's a lot going on in this series. If you have not watched Ozark, binge watch it from the beginning. Don't start here. But those of you who are fans, you probably already know that the final episodes have dropped. And now's the time to see what happens to this family, the Bird family. Then, of course, we have Grace and Frankie on Netflix. Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, what more can I say? This has been the longest running series on Netflix to date, 7 seasons. And we're going to see this wrap up in a nice little bow. We'll also see Dolly Parton make a cameo appearance. But for those of you who are fans of Jane and Lily, worry not. They've already shot 2 films together. So they've become sort of a little franchise of their own. So don't worry. We'll see plenty of these 2 in the future.
All right. Yeah, they are become true buddies. We only have a few seconds here. There are shows about shows. Can you tell us about one of those?
That's right. Okay, on Paramount Plus, we have The Offer. It's a scripted series based on how The Godfather got made. And then I have to talk about the Spring Awakening reunion and concert and behind the scenes. This is on HBO. It's a love letter to the show for anyone who saw it. It was a really formative show for a lot of these performers, and we'll see them all there. It's great.
So many shows I want to watch right now. All right, Brian, thank you so much. You kept us awake the entire time. We appreciate it. Good to see you. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.